Chassidus and Chizzuk. Gewaldig. Chassidus and Chizzuk, Parsha Shoftim. B'ezrat Hashem, we're learning right now with the whole world, specifically Shana Bet Levi Torah.
What?
Okay, so we're going to start off with Inyane Eretz Yisrael like we always do. Why? Because learning Torah is Simcha, and we know from Yimishkachech, Tishkach Yimini, that anytime you have Simcha, you have to think of Yerushalayim first. So first we're going to learn, look in the Mar Makomos, in the Sefer Drishat Tziyon, from Rav Moshe Tzuriel, a former Ram in Yeshivat Tel Aviv. So he says like this: Lifnei arichat milchama hayu hashotrim achrizim mi hem hapturim min ishtatef bekrav. Right, we know the policemen, the shotrim of Am Yisrael would go around to the nation and announcing that people who were the different types of people who were not chayav in going to war. V'divru hashotim el ha'am le'mor mi ha'ish asher bana bayit chadash v'lo chancho yelech v'yishuv lebeito. Right, we know the classic case: a person who builds a house for the first time, he hasn't been mechanech the house. We're not going to get into that, what it means to be mechanech the house. But he hasn't mechanech the house yet, he should go back home. So he continues in the Sefer Pasku Chazal. So Chazal told us why. Yachal hakona bayit b'chutz la'aretz. Not why, but we're going to discuss now the difference between Eretz Yisrael and Chul. This halacha regarding Eretz Yisrael and Galus. Yachal hakona bayit b'chutz la'aretz. Yehei chozer ma'orchem l'chama. Is it possible that someone who buys a house in chutz la'aretz, in Galus, in exile, does that person still have a patur? Does he have an exempt from going to war? Tamalomar v'lo chancho. At mitzvah l'chancho, the mitzvah of Chanukat HaBayit, yatza zeh she'ein mitzvah l'chancho. The Gemara in Yerushalmi, the Masechet Sotah in Yerushalmi is telling us that the main reason that a person doesn't go to war as a result of him building a new house is because he hasn't done the mitzvah of Chanukat HaBayit. And the Gemara tells us in the Yerushalmi that this mitzvah only applies to those who are in Eretz Yisrael. Zot umeret, rak haboneh bayit be'Eretz Yisrael hu hapater me'hamilchama. Only someone who builds a house in Eretz Yisrael is someone who's pater from milchama. The Rambam says this when he brings down the halacha. The Drishat Tziyon says this is crazy. This is a giant question. If the whole reason for the person not going to war is because they're going to be worried and the whole man, I wish air was coming at my face and I wish I would have cooked the steak in my kitchen before I went to war. Whatever it is, it seemingly that would be the feeling. How come I didn't get to use my new playground in my house? Right? It's not fair. That should be the feeling. But Chazal are telling us that's not what the emotion is going through the person's head. That's not the basis of the halacha. If that's the reason, so what makes a difference if it's in Galus or if it's not? So it's the Pnei Moshe, the parish on the Yerushalmi says the reason for Chanukat HaBayit is because of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. It's for the purpose of settling Eretz Yisrael. Right, Talmud of the Lavush, who says, the mitzvah of Chanukat HaBayit, there's a whole tekas the Svardim have, but the concept of having a party of Chanukat HaBayit, when you move into your new house, you put the mezuzahs up, you invite your friends, you have a barbecue, all these different things, that only applies in Eretz Yisrael. Why? The Drishat Tziyon does not say it's mefurash, but the mashma'ut, the implications of what he's saying is, if a person buys a house in Eretz Yisrael, in Galus, it's not worth anything. A person who buys a house in Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't have a definition of a bias. The only time a person has definition of a bias is when a person's in Eretz Yisrael. Right? But you should be zocheh to build a bias in Eretz Yisrael. You're going to get to a couple of years, guys. Soon you're going to have a couple of friends who are getting married. You'll be saying this a lot. Right? But no one says Eretz Yisrael. But the pshat is the only time you can build a true house is in Eretz Yisrael. So that's the quick Eretz Yisrael Moser from the Drishat Tziyon, from Moshe Tzuriel, based on the pasuk that we see that the shotrim would go out, that a person only has a hagdara, the definition of a house can only happen in Eretz Yisrael. A Jew not in Eretz Yisrael is always homeless. Pshat. Okay, now getting to the Parsha. Two mind-blowing pieces. I don't want to go for too long, so you might have to run through them, which is a huge. I got to do tshuva for this on Yom Kippur when it comes up. We're going to do this first. Okay, Kedushas lady. The Kedushas lady, Rebbe Yitzzchak and Sara Sasha. It should be a schus for all of us. They should be protected by him. B'ezrat Hashem. Right, Shoftim-Yonah, you should put in all your gates, and they're going to judge the nation in a mishpat tzedek, in a righteous judgment. What does that mean? HaKadosh Baruch Hu shofet et HaKnesset Yisrael b'vo yom HaMishpat b'godel rachma v'chasadav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we know, comes to judge Am Yisrael, and he comes and judges through rachmim and through chesed. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the judge, rachmim and chesed. This is a basic concept in Chassidus. The difference between hitorut the upper awakening and lower awakening. Sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the first to act. Sometimes we're the first to act, and therefore it makes changes either way. Don't want to get into it right now, but Kedushas Levi is telling us that we need hit'oruti latata. We have to act in a way of rachamim in order to cause HaKadosh Baruch Hu to act with rachamim with us. What does this mean? How do we do that? How do we get to that level where we cause HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do chesed with us? When we down here in Olam Hazeh deal with other people and we don everyone around us l'kav zchut, when we act, right, it's a natural concept, a natural thing that a person has. We have eyes, Baruch Hashem, we all have healthy eyes. You look around the room, you look around the world, and you see someone. Our natural judgment as a result of many different things, our natural reaction to do is, okay, what's that guy doing wrong? What's that guy doing wrong? How am I going to judge that guy? What's that guy doing? Not even necessarily wrong, but how can I sum up that person into some sort of concept in my brain? That's how we work. Generally speaking, though, because of the Yetzer Hara, right? We generally speaking, and that's why it's such a big meter. We will always judge them low, not the cuff. That person's on the street not wearing tzitzis, so I'm initially going to say, oh, what a bum, that guy's not wearing tzitzis. Or that guy comes in at 10:30 and all of a sudden starts chuckling. So I'm not going to be down the cuff. So I'm going to say, oh, that guy's davening shachar 10:30. But what if he just had this crazy moment of inspiration, decide that he's going to go up to the wall and start davening like Chana, right? The initial tefillah, and just davening and chuckling. Probably davening dates, and I'm a bum and davening at 8 o'clock. And the guy who wasn't wearing tzitzis, who knows? Maybe his tzitzis tore and he took them off, so he wasn't wearing a puzzle pair of tzitzis. Or maybe he was just coming back from a basketball game and he didn't wear tzitzis and he had a head not play where tzitzis were playing basketball. Who knows? But that's called judging someone al kaf zchut with chesed. And through that, we're able to be zocher the chesed from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The im kein ha'adam me'orer ba'uvda shelemata hashar elyon liftoch shari chesed l'harik bracha al kol Yisrael. If a person is able from down in this world to start judging people through chesed, we open up all the gates of Shemayim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'harik bracha, he spits bracha at us. I think that's what that means. HaKadosh Baruch Hu spits bracha on us. He spits bracha not just us. Yeah, he spits it at us. It just flies out at us 100 miles an hour. Hits us in the forehead. Exactly. Hits us right in the face. Bracha, chesed, hits us in the face. Shoftim, you should put in all your gates. You yourself, you XYZ Ploni Almoni Jew, you can cause a Kadosh Baruch Hu's judgment to come out good through your actions. What are the gates? Your gates, singular. Every single person has the gates of their actions. Right? I have a mouth. I have a mouth and that's a gate. I have nostrils and that's a gate. I have ears and have a gate. I can close them. It's a perfect fit. Right? I have eyes and they have gates. Everything on my body has a gate. And therefore I can open and close them when I decide to. And if I use those gates to only allow chesed to come out and in, that means HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he opens up the gates of Shemayim, so too those gates will be open with chesed. Every single person we have to practice, we have to try constantly. It's a constant avoda that you should always try to judge a person mishpat tzedek. Right, Elzman, we're talking about Hachana, we're talking about preparation for Hashanah. How are we going to come out with a good din? How? This is the trick. Kedushas Levi telling us right now. Don't get into why the Kedushas Levi knows this. Kedushas Levi is the Sanigor for Am Yisrael. He is Am Yisrael's attorney, so he's giving us the clue. How do we do it? You want to know how to be Zocha on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? Just look around you and look at Am Yisrael and say, wow, everyone's tzaddikim. We know it. It's a pshat. We say Perkei Avos. Question is, are we doing it b'maisa? If we can do it l'maisa, if we can do it in actual, b'foel, in this world, when I look around and I see Yankel Sprinkle, the new Yid, all stuff. When I see Yankel Sprinkle, I see him, and I'm going to say, Gavaldik, that guy's a giant tzaddik, for whatever reason. It could be he's a falafel guy in the street in Tel Aviv. It could be he's a trash guy in New York. But as long as he's a Eretz Yisrael, if he's a Jew, I look at him and I say, Gavalt, you're a Yid. You're a Yid, and therefore I love you, and therefore you're a tzaddik. And therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me, and on Rosh Hashanah it's always me good. Okay, we're going to come back to this in Chazar soon, but that's from Kedushas Levi. Mind-blowing tip. It's an eitzah for how to be Zocha on Rosh Hashanah. When I'm talking to Rosh Hashanah properly, that's the Hachana. That's the Ikar Hachana, to look at Am Yisrael properly. Okay, moving to a completely different topic. Maybe we're going to try to tie them together. The HaShiloach. Ishbitzer. Ishbitzer Torah is where it's at. Okay, the HaShiloach, Chassidus. Can't even talk about it too much. Okay. Lo tiken lecha asherah kol eitz etzel mizbeach Hashem Elokecha. This week's Parsha. Parsha tells us a person should not plant an asherah next to a mizbeach of Hashem. An asherah is a tree for avodah zarah, right? We all know this. What does it mean on a deeper level? And on a Pshat level, it means there's certain trees you don't want to put next to mizbeach because it's avodah zarah. The pnimis. What does it mean in terms of our avodah? Because I don't know what an asherah is and I don't have a mizbeach. So what am I supposed to do about that? Right?
Do wrong things and the whole
Okay, good. That's one way of looking at it. The HaShiloach is going to take that concept and he's going to blow it out of proportion. He's going to make this little thing that you can see in Ramakomos is like the big bang of Kedusha and awesomeness. Small nitzot, it's a small little thing, and you could talk about this the next 14,000 years and still never finish it. Okay, ha'inyan bezeh. Don't be scared. Embrace it. Ha'inyan bezeh. What does this mean? We know that there's a concept in Limud Torah that a person should be kafuf. A person should subjugate themselves under a Talmud Chacham. Right? We know the famous machlokas, lifelong machlokas between Rebbe Gamliel and Yeshua about a whole long so I don't want to get into it right now. But Sof Shadavar, Rebbe Gamliel and Yeshua, two giant tzaddikim, one of them had to submit to the other one. I don't want to get into the stories right now. I don't have time for it. Look it up in Masechtas Brachos. Very kedai. Very, very kedai. We're going to get to it B'ezrat Hashem this year. V'zehu rak b'divrei Torah. This concept, though, of a Talmud needing a Rebbe, of the concept of having psak halacha and not being posik for yourself, all these different things that only applies to Torah. Aval b'tefilla. Again, this is no get to far zman, right? El is the time where we're mechazik in our tefillah. Aval b'tefilla asur lihiyot kafuf tachat shum gvan. It's usher for a person to subjugate themselves to any sort of variety of or any sort of concept. Let's put it that way. We'll call it a concept. It's usher for a person to subjugate themselves under any sort of concept. Why? This pasuk explains us. Ki mizbeach hu makom tefillah v'avoda. The mizbeach is a makom of tefillah and service of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. V'zesh nemar b'gemara it says in Masechtas Brachos Chav Zayin Amud Bet asur la'adam shitpalel achorei rabo. It's usher for a person to daven behind their Rav. It's halacha, state in the Gemara and Masechtas Brachos. What does this mean, Pnimius? Hainu shelo yitpalel l'shum gvan. When it says acharei Rabbo, generally speaking, the Gemara on Pshat level is telling us that a person shouldn't daven behind the Rebbe because it's going to be mafreir them, they're not going to be able to daven properly for whatever reason, and the Gemara goes and explains it.
I really like standing behind as well.
So sometimes it's important to daven in a place with your Rebbe because that helps inspire you to get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu because you have fear, like Rav Karl was talking about, right? The more tzaddikim and the more rabbanim that they're around, the more the person can feel the need to get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. But in terms of standing directly behind your Rebbe, the Gemara goes and explains why that's a bad thing to do. And now the HaShiloach is going to tell us on a deeper level what that means. That a person shouldn't daven right behind the Rebbe. What does that mean? A person shouldn't daven behind any sort of facet or any sort of concept or any sort of shade of reality. Meaning what? We're going to explain this in a second. Right over here, he's taking an example directly from the Gemara that a person shouldn't daven that a Kadosh Baruch Hu should send him some sort of salvation, that he should be a gadol in Torah like his Rebbe. And HaShiloach v'zeh asur. That's a pella. That's crazy. I want to throw something right now because that's making me go out of my mind. But that's usher. I see Rabbi Yashiv. Thank you. I see Rabbi Yashiv. I see I see tzaddikim around the world, and I say, Kadosh Baruch, let me be like them. That's usher to daven for. That's crazy. What does this mean? That's usher to daven for. Teach me your Torah, HaShiloach. Ki b'tefillah tzarich lahavin ki hu mitparel Hashem yitbarach. That in and of itself is a big bang of life. When a person's davening, they have to understand they're davening in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Mikor HaYeshua, He is the root and source for all salvations, all answered tefillahs in the world. Shiyach lo shiroto, b'li gvul meitzar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can save us in a way that we can't even think of. There's no boundary and there's no limits to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu could do. So when a person is standing behind their Rebbe, and they say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let me be Gadol in Torah like my Rebbe. But the reality is, my Rebbe has a boundary to how much he can learn. But maybe my potential is more than that. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu can give me kochos and Havana atachon l'adam das.
Can you daven to be greater than you are?
100%. But he's saying here, you shouldn't even compare yourself. You shouldn't put yourself under any sort of comparison. That's why if you look in Tefilla, if you look in Shemona Esrei, there's no specific request. Atachon l'adam das isn't das of a rating of 100 out of 200. It's atachon l'adam das infinity. Rafeinu Hashem le'arpei hosheinu v'nvasheh ki tilatenu ata v'alei refuah shlema. Shalom is a refuah without a rule. Right? All these different things. There's no boundaries to that. There's no time limits. There's no build Beis Hamikdash so it's like this size. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't work at building specific sizes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu works because he can create the world however he wants to. So the HaShiloach can continue to finish that commotion by al pasuk for sure. Okay, we got the Parsha. Don't want to get into it. That's a crazy sikha that he gives over there. But what's the HaShiloach telling us? When a person comes to daven, when a person comes, he shouldn't put an asherah tree next to the mizbeach. An asherah tree is a tree. It has a specific size. There's only specific growth that the tree can get. Don't put it next to the mizbeach. Don't put boundaries on your own avoda. Don't put boundaries on your own tefillah. When a person comes to daven, you can daven for anything. To say HaKadosh Baruch Hu let me grow to be 6 feet tall, when you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can make you grow to be 17,000 feet tall, that's ridiculous. HaKadosh Baruch Hu let me grow to the height that you want me to grow to the height to be. And take that ridiculous example and apply it to everything else. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give my friends the refuah, give my family, give my relatives, give my friends the refuah they need. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, parnasa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is only an idiot does this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please berech aleinu es hashana hazos that I should have $10 in my parnasa for the whole year. Idiot. Stamp that guy, idiot.
I would like to say, you might pay my bills.
Right. So, in terms of pratim, so I want to get into it right now. We can talk about it later. But yeah, why not? Person should daven. When a person comes daven, they should daven however they feel they need to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the etzem, in those words, berech aleinu. But go back for 1 second. Berech aleinu. The brachas of tefillah in that part aren't meant for you. Berech aleinu is not talking about you. It's talking about Am Yisrael. Later on, I'll kind of story you can add your own tefillas, and in Shema Kuleinu you can already add your own tefillas for your own self. But Berech aleinu, when we're talking about Am Yisrael, and this makes it even stronger, because really we're davening for Am Yisrael. So who am I, Yonah Friedman, to come and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you can only bless Am Yisrael with X, Y, Z amount of bracha. Give him the whole alphabet. A, B, C, go all the way to X, Y, Z. Give him the whole alphabet full of bracha pranasa. Who am I to, and forget alphabet, just beyond it, beyond words, beyond letters, right? Give them anything they need. I don't know what that means. I have no clue what that means. How can I know how much money HaKadosh Baruch Hu can give to a person? How do I know how much refuah HaKadosh Baruch Hu can give to a person? So the Anshe Knesset and the Chachma gave us tefillah. It's very vague. There's no boundaries to it, and that's the HaShiloach is telling us. Okay, quick chazara, B'ezrat Hashem. Tzuriel is telling us that a person's only real bayit is in Eretz Yisrael. Otherwise, halachically, there's no mitzvah chinuch bayit because the person doesn't have a new house that they are being mechanech. That's Tziyon. B'ezrat Hashem, we should always offer to build our bayis in Eretz Yisrael, whether we're married, whether we're not. Soon from here, we should always offer to that madrega. The Kedushas Levi then comes and tells us a beautiful concept that in order to have our tefillas be mekavan, to have our din come out l'tzad chesed and l'tzad tzedek, therefore we have to act the same way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Davek bo, we have to act in the same way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu acts. In order to do that, in order to have a good din on Yom Kippur, hachana for Elul, B'ezrat Hashem, we have to act with others as chesed, and that's homework for B'ezrat Hashem, not just this week, but for whole life. Whenever you walk through the street and you all of a sudden you have a din of, that guy's a bum, especially coming to yeshiva and school, whatever you're at, right? You're going to walk around, you're going to see new people. Immediately you should say, what's good about that person? What can I do as positive? Right? How can I do that person as my Rebbe? And that's the Kedushas Levi. The HaShiloach told us a beautiful concept about tefillah, that a person should never come and give themselves boundaries and chain links and chain fences around themselves when it comes to tefillah. A person has infinite possibilities when it comes to tefillah. So B'ezrat Hashem, who teaches the Kedushas Levi of how it can be zocha in a day of judgment on Yom Kippur and on the day of being mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of giving the crown to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through being down the kavskos other yidden, and B'ezrat Hashem through teaching the HaShiloach of how to truly daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu without boundaries. B'ezrat Hashem through the avodah of Elam, through the avodah of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur Sukkos, we should be zocha that B'ezrat Hashem the geula, is a time of no boundaries, of the amount of love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for us and the amount of love that we have for Am Yisrael, that should come B'ezrat Hashem b'mheir v'yameinu. And everyone should be zocha to a new zman, to have chiddush v'nomer l'fan of shira chadasha, and B'ezrat Hashem we should all reach our full potential, whatever that means.